have a presentation. Okay. So I want to start with a synthesis I got from yesterday. I wrote this, this tweet. I said the idea of yesterday was that we are saying that part of the forest is burning, but there is also a part of the forest that is growing. And basically the key issue today in politics is how to make win the growing part, how to get an efficient reforestation. That's the key question. And in order to answer this question, we started with our civil economy group that I'm happy is growing, is broadening. There are always many more economists which like our way of looking, and of course go around to discuss the paradigm. But what is this paradigm? I make a synthesis in these abstracts. Basically, 3 points. First of all, we go beyond anthropological reductions. We say man is not homo economicus, he's a sense searcher before being an utility maximizer. And we find that poverty of sense is a mortality risk factor. This is a paper I did with other friends, an econometric analysis on data on health, on aging people. Hence, we resume the result of the life satisfaction literature, the drivers of the life satisfaction literature with the generativity. Generativity is the best way to create sense in individual life and make them flourish. So the key issue for us is to create conditions for generativity of every member in the society. That's the goal of civil economics, okay? And that's really close to the idea of common goods of Christian social doctrine. Second point, which was stressed already by before me today, we say that the individual rationality of Homo economicus is an inferior form of rationality, because Homo economicus is a social idiot, as Amartya Sen has said. Why? Because life is made of social dilemma. We call them prisoner dilemma, trust game. And in this dilemma, we have asymmetric information, non-overlapping competencies, incomplete contracts. And in this case, the Homo economicus perform worse than the Homo with the superior form of rationality, which is social rationality. We then say also, but why social progress is so difficult if people are sense searcher, generativity is crucial, and social rationality is better than individual rationality. The reason is that to conquer the superior goods is difficult, and freedom of, which is the most important things in life, things of Szytowski, the distinction between comfort and stimulus good, is difficult to be conquered. It requires training. So that's the main problem. When we go on, basically, I will divide my presentation in 4 parts. The first part is the vision. What is our vision? What is the civil economic paradigm? Second is facts. I will skip on this because Jeffrey Sachs resumed very well what are the problems of our societies, at least in high-income countries, and we all know what are the problems of our society. I think it's much more important to discuss how we can move toward our vision. So what are the policies and what are the initiatives at work? First of all, the civil economics completely redress the paradigm. So you can see one column, the old paradigm, one column, the civil economic paradigm. So basically we go beyond the 3 reductionist view of human beings, corporations, and value. Individuals are, we already said, sense searchers and not utility maximizer, use social rationality, not individual rationality. Corporations create value added for stakeholders and not profit maximizer, and they are rich in the production of life, sense, and social impact. Value is not GDP, but is the stock of spiritual, relational, economic, environmental goods that a community can enjoy in a given area. Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't change the slide. That was what I was saying. And, but I think what is more important is what is the consequence in terms of political economy of this. Basically, in the old paradigm, political economy is two-handed. As an individual, we sit, we look at TV, we decide which is our champions, our hero as politician, and the market and the state solve everything. On the contrary, in the civil economic paradigm, we need a four-handed approach. State and market needs to be helped, complemented by the action of civil society and of responsible corporation. We have a lot of corporate welfare today in Western countries. Why this is not just a mean, but also a goal? It is a goal because the actual goal of our society for us is full generativity, is fecundity. So a society cannot be generative if people are not allowed to participate to the creation of common good. That's why it's very important to use this four-handed approach. Some more things on this. That's what we intend for generativity. I also quoted the John Stuart Mill sentence before: desire, give birth, accompany, and let live. This is basically what we found in life satisfaction results. That generativity is the key driver of life satisfaction and life sense. And as I told you, in the end, the common good is basically what comes after buen vivir, after well-being, because basically the idea is of creating a society where we remove everything that prevents people to reach their fulfillment, okay? So I make you an example now in Italy. Couples, they want to have 2 children, they ask them, they say, no, we want to have 2 children, but they cannot have because they have economic problems, social problems. So that's some of the obstacles that we have to remove, of course, together with others. Something more I want to say, okay, I don't go too much into this idea of sense search, but it's very important. Economists do not understand a lot of things of reality because they stick to this paradigm of utility maximization, while people are sense searcher. Otherwise, you cannot understand identitarian behaviors, radicalism behavior, and all these things. But I think the most important issue is, first of all, it's funny that economics has created a paradigm on a behavior which represents a small minority of people. If you look at the experiments, only 20%, 30% of people behave like Homo economicus, and we use that as a paradigm. That's the result of the dictator game from Engel, famous Engel paper. But I think the basic issue is this one. I mean, Hume said very well in 1740 what is the key issue in social and economic relationship, okay? There are 2 producers. One says, I should help you today, you should help me tomorrow to collect our yields. And I don't do it because I don't feel anything toward you, and I'm sure that you will not do the same with me tomorrow. So we end up not helping each other, and our yield ruins. That's exactly why we say that the Homo economicus is a rational fool. And what we think is economics is like this. Economics is trust, trustworthiness, and cooperation. That's the symbol of economics. And that's the symbol of the wealth of regions where people solve this. You see, the first one is the trustor. The trust is social risk. It means that you launch yourself. But what is important is not just trusting, which can be temerarious, but it's important that you can elicit trustworthiness. Trustworthiness is very important. You must be reasonably safe that there's someone behind you to keep you. And that's, we work a lot on strategy to create social capital. Today, the most fascinating question among economists is how we can create social capital. And I show you some of these things. And that's basically the virtuous circle we are getting out with a book which is called The Wealth of Regions. There are some regions which are very rich, because in these regions people can solve the dilemma in a positive way. They create added value, super additivity, 1 + 1 = 3, and this value is not dissipated by good institutions and by good organizations. Okay, so I won't go into all this, but just to mention you, for example, these are the key rules for social capital. Eliciting trustworthiness, buy long-term reputation with short-term asymmetric giving. This is Akerlof with gift exchange. Create positive sum games. Which kind of assumptions? Social capital accelerator. This is working very much in Italy. We have foundations who say, I will help the South, I will give money to the South, but only if you are able to collect, to create a social network. If you can collect 300,000 euro, I will put other 300,000 euro on top of that. And that's what we call foundation of community. Okay, so narrative about social capital heroes and taste for generativity, all these things may help to create social capital. While profit maximization is a problem, of course we know that, profit maximizing banks have no interest in lending to SME, so basically a bank which is profit maximizer is not a bank. And second, this is what I also do with my work in ethical investment funds, managerial compensation is skewed toward large variable components which are linked to profit measure. And this increases distributional conflict when the value cake is fixed, because when the value cake is fixed, the manager who wants to cash his bonus has to reduce the slice of the cake of the other stakeholder. So basically, the policy issue we suggest here is at least put some social and environmental indicators in bonus. So something about the policies. As I told you, what is very interesting here is that Millennium Development Goals were completely top-down, while Sustainable Development Goals are no more completely top-down. We talk about partnership with civil society, we talk about responsible consumption, which is goal 12. Why? Because of course, with environmental sustainability, it's not possible to achieve our goals only from top-down. If you want to reduce water waste, everyone has to close a tap, so people have to cooperate. So this is very important, this move, I think. As I told this morning, I think that a very important lever we have to change the world today is consumption. The power in this economic system is in the hand of consumers and in the hand of investors. They move the world. So the power is ours. We are the market. There's not something superpower beyond us. If 100% of consumers change the way they behave, if they award the company providing the best sustainable value, the world is changed tomorrow. So the problem is, how can we do that? Okay? Of course, we need new information tools. That's something written in a UK website. That's exactly what I think. If our members believe in our mission and vote with a wallet, there's no end to what we can achieve. So basically, what is the problem here? The problem also from a theoretical point of view is that vote with the wallet is a multiplayer prisoner dilemma. Basically, if you are an homo economicus, you say, okay, the other people will vote with the wallet, for me the best thing to do is to take the cheaper product. But it would be better if everyone vote with the wallet, we are all better off. So that's a typical prisoner dilemma. So how can you solve prisoner dilemma? You need awareness, you need coordination, you need cooperation, and of course you have a problem of extra price, sometimes, not always. So one example on how we can deal with that, we created a network in Italy among all the most representative part of the civil society, basically trade union movements, Catholic worker movements, consumption cooperation movements, bank, fair trade, university, Catholic Manager Association. This is called Next, and what we did with Next, many things, but one thing we did is this ION-BUY. What is ION-BUY? ION-BUY is something which is involved also Stefano and many others, and also Jeff Sachs from today. He said he likes very much that. The idea is that we want to create a digital platform of the civil society, okay? Not owned by Zuckerberg, by Bezos, the civil society, create this platform to do what? To create a three-dimensional TripAdvisor. So basically someone giving stars not just to the quality of product, but also to the dignity of labor of that company and to the environmental sustainability of that company, okay? This is not something strange, it's happening, someone is going to do. The issue is only who is going to do, okay? Who is going to see who is good and who is not in the future society. In finance, this is already happening. I'm involved in that. I make you an example of vote with the wallet in finance. We created the Montreal Carbon Pledge, but this is more interesting. We are Etikas GR, 3 billion euros. We are a small investment fund. We are part of a larger investment fund, which is called Interfaith Center for Corporate Responsibility, which was created by US nuns in the US, and it collects money of the religious institutions, 100 billion dollars, and we are part of the Montreal Pledge, which is 10,000 billion euros. So what the Montreal Pledge does, the Montreal Pledge calculates the carbon footprint of their portfolio. So we calculate how much our portfolio pollutes. And the goal is to reduce the carbon footprint of our portfolio, okay? And basically this is creating a lot of pressure on companies. The main Italian energy company, Enel, has 20% of owners, which are funds participating to the Montreal Carbon Pledge. So what is the result of that? The result is that they are going toward the idea of more environmental sustainability. So basically, why I was telling you that something like ION-BUY is important, because what's happening in this field, Morningstar, which is the society rating the performance of investment funds. 2 years ago, they decided to create CSR globes. Basically, they are giving the star for the sustainability of funds. And so I think so it is important that we can do this as a civil society organization. Again, another experiment we have done, this is a campaign from Oxfam, it's called Behind the Brand. Oxfam produced marks for graduation ratings for the 10 biggest food companies, for the behavior they have in Africa, in Latin America, in terms of water, farmers, and all these things, land grabbing. They give these marks, and they created a campaign. We made an experiment by putting this board with the marks at the entrance of leading Italian supermarkets to see what was the reaction of people to this campaign. And basically what we found is that people changed part of their decision, that the one who scored first won 6% market share. The 3 who were at the bottom, they lost 20% market share. So one idea is, let us give information to consumers. If consumers know that it's their interest, their long-sighted interest, also short-sighted interest, to award, maybe the price is the same, to award companies which have higher dignity of labor, higher sustainability, they will do that. The only issue is that we have to give information to them. That's another experiment that we did with green product. Now another issue is this one. Okay, that's here. How can we help to redress this relationship between worker and consumer? Because the problem is this in our economy. We are victim, but also we are the masters. Because as consumers, we are the masters. As worker, we are the victim. We are on both sides of the problem, okay? Because this society is created to increase consumer surplus and to increase profits. And often it happens at the expense of the environment and of workers. So what can we do? You know, beyond, first one thing I showed already, giving information tool to people to vote with the wallet. Second point, and these other 2 points are what we will bring into the social weeks, Italian social weeks next week, to the government as proposal for Italian government. You have to work on green social consumption tax. You can work only on consumption side in a global economy if you want to redress. How? You have to put lower VAT on products with high environmental and social content, and you have to put higher VAT on product with low social content. We already do something with circular economy and electric car. Third one is the government votes a lot with the wallet, so we have to reform procurement rules. The lowest price rule for the government, it's the worst thing you can do. Because if you want, in many areas of Italy, if you win, the lowest price company wins, that's a mafia company, that's a criminal company. It does probably has a low price because it's exploiting labor, it's exploiting the environment, it's not paying taxes in our country. So it is stupid for the government to follow this rule. So what we are proposing in Italy is to move more toward what we call the economically advantageous offer, which is basically something incorporating premia for social, environmental, and fiscal responsibility. Fiscal responsibility is very important in that. So that's an example on how this could work. There are many examples at the European level on that. This is a classification of CanSino in 2010, but you can see also Albrecht 2006, trying to calculate which products should have low tax, which products should have high tax, in a way that is balanced budget. Basically, there's no cost for the government in doing that. So that's the other thing we are doing, as I told you already, Cercatori di Lavoro. Basically, the idea is that we cannot dedicate a social week just to celebrate an hero of the past. We have to find who are the hero of today. In Italy, we have Olivetti. Olivetti is considered, you know, the top sustainable, responsible manager of the past. We say, who are the 400 Olivetti of today? So we send people around. We sent our people in the territories, in the areas, to find the 400 Olivetti. And we find a great picture of Italy today. I cannot get into all of this, but basically we find that Italy has 3 engines. One engine is high-quality manufacturing, where these people cannot find good workers because they need high-quality workers. There's a lot of mismatch. 200,000 places which are vacant, okay? And when you do high-quality manufacturing, you can put back into the country. Second one is health, personal services. This is becoming the biggest sector in the future. The most powerful of the 400 good practices I saw is one working, creating infrastructure for all people, making all people generative. This is really, really a big business. They employ 500 people. They are opening everywhere. They are very, very good. Third one is what I called Montalbano economics. What is Montalbano economics? It's the mix of art, history, culture, biodiversity, which makes an area attractive for the rest of the world. In future, tourism is becoming one of the key competitive sector in the world. And basically, globalization is competitions among territories to attract money, to attract visitors. So it's very important, in this perspective, it is very important to invest into the quality of territory. It's a public good, and if the value of the public good grows, everyone can benefit, from small shops to everyone around. So that's we work very much to see how any territory can work, and how can create that. A very nice example, so we have here example of cooperatives, like in Naples, they opened the catacombs, which are enhancing the value of the local area. We have, for example, very nice example of smart work. We have examples of incubators. We have so many things here that I cannot get into all this. For example, the idea of how you can help small towns, small council to become attractive, not to become depopulated. So so it's very good. I think what is important, not the recipes that we will present next week in the social weeks, but the method. The recipes of next week will be obsolescent, will be old in 3 years, in 4 years. The method, I think it works and should be used everywhere. So that's another small example of what we did. There's a book of 48, we collected together also with Stefano, the 48 best examples of local administration in Italy. So again, a collection of best practice. A lot of these best practices follow the logic of grassroots subsidiarity, elicitation of energies from the bottom. The idea is that politics today has to unleash the energies of the civil society. We have, for example, cooperatives managing local public goods. We have council cooperatives. We have many, many other things, social capital accelerator, as I told you before. This is another one. Another thing, I think what is very important also is to promote entrepreneurial capacity of young people when they're students in terms of creation of social business. That's what we do in Italy, at 10 universities. We call this Get Ready for the Future. Basically, we have 1,000 participants last year, and then we have a final selection where the top 10 go into the final. They present their projects, and the top one enter into the incubator. Just two weeks ago, the first 3 startups started from these projects. Final point, it's this also this idea. We can use the idea of the vote with the wallet also to reach some kind of social goal. In Italy, we did this in our fight against gambling. What did we do? Gambling in Italy is widespread. There are a lot of slot machines in the bar, and people with lower education, they gamble. The lowest the education, the more they gamble, because basically we calculated as financial economists that any euro that you put in that machine gives you back 60 cents. So basically there is a minus 40% expected gain. Of course, you must have very low financial education to play. And our problem is that there shouldn't be positive advertising on gambling while there is negative advertising on smoking, you know? Why? You know, on smoking, there is a big group that created consensus that smoking is not good, and we have a frightening advertising of smoking, showing people with cancer or whatever. While in the same time, we're saying people win for life, okay? when they advertise gambling. So we said, this is not good, and we created a movement using the Vote with the Wallet instrument. We said, let's go to the bar, let's buy, all these people are going to a place and they buy a product from a bar who removes slot machine from its shopping place. And basically, we created a political movement that obtained some results from governments and from local administration. That's an example on how we can use the idea of the Vote with the Wallet. So basically, I'm going toward the conclusion. So what is the idea? In the end, I started from the idea of generativity, and I go back to the idea of generativity. The goal of the civil economy is to make people generative, because we find that life satisfaction basically is driven by your generativity. Generativity is a capacity of doing something good for your life and life of other people. But the logic of generativity is also a logic which can be reached when it's projected on time and not on space. No? You know very well this famous says of a word of Pope Francis it's not Laudato Si, sorry, it's Evangelii Gaudium, where he says time is greater than space. So I think that the measure of our political action should be this: not occupy spaces just for the sake of occupying them. It does not mean that we don't have to take responsibility, but we have to take responsibility in order to launch something which can have an effect on the future. And we don't have to worry if now it's a small seeds. I don't think that's something that has to be necessarily big today, even though I showed you something which is big already today. What is important is its capacity of moving into the future. When 20 years ago we started talking about responsible finance, responsible investment funds, we were really small things. And now Montreal Pledge is $10 trillion, which is really big. And also the new ideas of using the Vote with the Wallet are big. So I really think that in the future, these sprouts can grow more. And of course, also, this is not something which has to go against policies or in contraposition to traditional politics. The issue is that if we don't create a good civil society, a consensus towards sustainable development, there cannot be any politician which today can get away from the consensus of the public opinion and do something very important, very strong. So the first step to create a good political change is to change the people behind that. So that's I think really important. Of course, civil society, I focused now on bottom-up grassroots things, but of course we have a lot of also political issues that we consider also at a higher level. For example, fiscal responsibility means that we want to fight tax dodging, because I think that the main problem today is that there is more and more wealth created at the global level, but this wealth is not redistributed. And if it is not redistributed, if it don't becomes purchasing power at the mass level, there won't be any possibility of full employment in the future. Full employment in the future will be absolutely possible, as it was after any industrial revolution, provided that the fiscal system does its job. So that's basically, that's why we introduce also fiscal responsibility into our rules. And for example, we have local procurement rule where you can participate to the local procurement only if you don't have seats in the Cayman Island or you use other types of tax dodging, because basically it's silly to I make you win and then you make net sales you create value in my region and then you pay taxes in another region, because that of course the tax rate is lower. So that's basically, I hope I gave you a picture of this, and I thank you very much.